It is Christmas Eve 1963, and you wake to a world silenced by ice. The early morning is dark and stark, the air so cold it bites, and your breath hangs inside the room like soft fog. Outside, frost rims the windows and the streets are empty. Cars stand still, railway lines are frozen, and the usual noise of travel has gone, as the country feels held still by the big freeze. You find the house colder than you remember. Pipes have frozen, the coal is running low, and heating is limited, so preparing for Christmas becomes careful, quiet work. Everyday rituals are pared back to bare essentials, each small task an act of endurance. By midday, you adjust routines. Neighbors check on one another, families stay local, and you share what warmth you have. Inside, a single lamp or a small fire throws a soft glow. The radio is a steady companion, and candles and simple cooking fill the rooms with small comforts. As the day moves toward evening, the sharpness of worry softens into a slow, intimate togetherness. Conversation becomes quieter. Laughter comes in short, bright bursts, and the modest things feel larger. When you climb into a freezing bedroom that night, there is excitement and exhaustion woven together. You sleep layered against the cold, the day folding into memory. Christmas 1963 was difficult, cold, and exhausting. And it was unforgettable because it was shared. The memory remains quiet and deep. A winter remembered not for plenty, but for how you endured together. You stand on the platform, boots pressed into a crust of snow, the rails stretching ahead like frozen ribbons. The usual clatter and rumble are gone. Only the wind moves, carrying flakes that settle on silent carriages and empty benches. You watch a railwayman check his breath in the cold air, rubbing his hands together for warmth. He remembers the last train that managed to push through, days ago before the points froze solid and the drifts swallowed the tracks. Notices hang at the entrance, services suspended, no trains until further notice. The station clock ticks on, but no passengers arrive. In the distance, houses huddle against the cold, their chimneys barely stirring. This is not the bustling holiday rush you expect. Instead, the station has become a monument to stillness, every surface glazed with ice. The only footprints are from the station cat, weaving between locked doors. A worker in a thick overcoat remembers how the blizzard just after Boxing Day buried the sidings, how even the mailbags had to be abandoned in the guard's van. Across the country, the story repeats, rails iced over, platforms deserted, the usual lifeline between towns snapped. Where once there was movement and noise, now there is only the hush of snow and the knowledge that for now the world beyond the station is unreachable. You step out onto the lane, where the snow has swallowed the road markings and hedges alike. Nothing moves. Cars left behind days ago are now only shapes beneath white mounds, their windows rimed with ice. In the west, drifts have climbed as high as rooftops, 15 feet in places, burying the familiar paths between farms and villages. The world feels smaller, pressed in by snow walls and silence. Telephone lines sag beneath their own weight. Some snapped clean, leaving entire hamlets isolated, without a voice to the outside. The wireless crackles with news of more closures. The A46 impassable side roads vanished beneath windblown ridges. You hear of villages cut off for days. No post, no milk, no way to reach the next parish. Even the main roads, usually humming with lorries and coaches, are empty. No headlights flicker in the dusk. No engine noise drifts across the fields. Inside, families gather around kitchen tables, listening for updates, tracing the names of stranded places on paper maps. There is no question now of visiting distant relatives, no hope of deliveries before Christmas. The sense of waiting is everywhere. A quiet acceptance that the holiday will happen here with those close by. Neighbors check on each other where they can, trudging through knee-deep snow to share a word at the gate. Around the table they share warmth, and the small rituals of the season become the very thing that steadies them. Beyond the windows, the snow keeps its hold, muffling every sound, making each home its own small island in the white. The country feels paused, as if the world itself is holding its breath. You stand by the coal bunker, breath curling in the sharp morning air, hands already numb before you even lift the lid. The supply is low, a few dusty lumps rattling in the scuttle, not enough for a roaring fire. The coal merchant hasn't made it up the lane for days. His lorry, usually a lifeline, is stranded somewhere behind a drift, wheels buried and engine frozen. He has done what he can, shoveling by hand in the yard, but the roads are blocked and the coal sacks sit untouched, stiff with frost. Inside, you ration what is left. One small fire in the front room, doors shut tight to trap every bit of warmth. The rest of the house sits in silence, cold seeping through floorboards and walls. The kitchen kettle works overtime, whistling clouds of steam. But the water from the tap stutters and then stops. Pipes have frozen somewhere under the road. You fetch a bucket and step into the snow, scooping handfuls to melt on the stove. It takes an age to fill the pan, and the water never quite loses its chill. Chores stretch out, each one a small test of patience. You wrap potatoes in newspaper to keep them from freezing, stack blankets on beds, and check the pantry for anything that might stretch a meal further. The radio crackles in the corner, voices clipped and distant, reporting shortages and delays. You listen for news of deliveries, but none come. In these hours, survival is measured in cups of warm tea and the slow, careful feeding of the fire. Every lump of coal, every drop of water is counted and shared. You hear a gentle knock at the back door, muffled by snow piled against the step. It is Mrs. Harris from next door, cheeks red and scarf trailing snowflakes onto the mat. She carries a chipped enamel jug, asking if you might spare a little hot water for her kettle. Her pipes are frozen solid. There is no hesitation. You welcome her in. Both of you warm your hands over the stove, watching steam rise from the pan. The kitchen fills with the scent of tea leaves and the quiet comfort of company. Later, you walk across the garden to the Thompsons' house, boots crunching through the drift. They have managed to keep a small fire going and invite you to sit for a while. Children from both homes gather near the hearth, sharing a battered pack of cards and stories about the snow. Someone brings over a tin of condensed milk. Another offers a half-loaf saved for Christmas breakfast. There is talk of pooling what is left, potatoes wrapped in newspaper, a few apples, a tin of corned beef. No one has much, but together it feels like enough. The radio murmurs in the background, voices reading out closures and weather warnings, but inside these walls the world narrows to the glow of the fire and the sound of laughter. You trade recipes for stretching a meal, swap blankets for thicker ones, and promise to check on each other again before nightfall. In these small acts, passing a cup, sharing a chair, listening to stories, the cold outside loses some of its bite. The hardship is still there, but it is softened by the warmth that comes from not facing it alone. You settle onto the hearth rug, knees tucked in, the fire's glow painting your socks orange and gold. The wireless hums softly, voices drifting in and out, news, a weather warning, then the gentle swell of a carol. Shadows flicker on the wallpaper while the kettle hisses in the next room. Mrs. Harris lowers herself into the armchair with a grateful sigh, her hands wrapped around a cup of tea you have just poured. She tells you about Christmases long ago, how her father would bring home oranges wrapped in tissue, how coal was once delivered by horse and cart. The children listen quietly, the only sound the pop and crackle of the fire. On the radio, the home service carries familiar carols, each note filling the room with a warmth that the coal alone cannot provide. For a little while, the cold outside feels distant, and the world narrows to the circle of light and company gathered here. Upstairs, the fire's warmth fades with each step, the air turning sharper as you reach the landing. Bedrooms sit in darkness, windows etched with frost patterns so thick you could trace them with a finger. Breath hangs in the cold, a pale mist above the blankets. Children burrow under layers, woolen vests, thick socks, jumpers pressed into service as extra covers. Hot water bottles filled from the kettle cool quickly in the night air. You can hear the faint ticking of pipes, the distant creak of settling timbers. Excitement lingers, stockings hung, whispers about Father Christmas. But eyelids grow heavy in the chill. The hush is deep, broken only by the wind brushing the glass. In this quiet, the promise of morning glows as a secret, held close beneath the weight of blankets and the slow, steady breathing of sleep. The house settles. The night outside is absolute, and you feel how, despite the cold and the small hardships, the moment is quietly shared. Even now, when winters soften and comfort is easy, the memory of that cold endures. It reminds you that hardship shared becomes something unforgettable. As traditions evolve and comforts grow, the warmth found in togetherness remains what truly matters. Some winters never really leave us,